What if I told you that one of the most powerful things you could do in midlife to protect your peace, guard your mind, and even support your brain health was something the world keeps trying to make you feel guilty for? Rest, stillness, slowing down, making space for joy, letting your mind breathe, giving yourself permission to do something that doesn't always look productive, but may actually be deeply protective. And for women in midlife, that matters more than we've been taught. Because many of us are carrying stress in our bodies, pressure in our minds, responsibility in our spirits, and a lifetime of being told that our value lives in what we produce, manage, fix, carry, and hold together. But what if part of protecting your future self isn't pushing harder? What if part of the answer is learning how to pause? Stay with me, because today we're talking about the midlife habit that protects your peace, your purpose, and your brain. Hey friend, welcome to Ways of Change. I'm Vanessa, and this is day 66 of my 100-day commitment to show up daily as I navigate reinvention and overseas job search, faith, healing, and the beautiful, messy process of building my next chapter in real time. Let me ask you something. What if rest is doing something important too? What if slowing down is not laziness? What if joy is not frivolous? What if hobbies, creativity, reflection, and real restoration are not extras in midlife, but essentials? That's where we're going today. I want to talk about why rest is not quitting, why pleasure is not wasteful, why women in midlife need to protect our minds on purpose, and why creating a rhythm of restoration may be one of the wisest things we could do for the long road ahead. And I'm putting an emphasis on long. So let's start with the job hunt update. Today's update is simple. It's Sunday. I didn't submit any job applications today. I didn't complete an engagement hour. And I'm not sharing that from a place of apology. I'm sharing it from a place of intention. Because last week I made a decision that Sundays are going to be my day of rest, except for this daily commitment to my 100-day journey. That means I'm not abandoning discipline. I'm redefining it. Because discipline is not just about doing more. Sometimes it's knowing when to stop. It's protecting your own mind. Discipline is refusing to let ambition turn into self-neglect. And sometimes discipline is saying, I'm still committed, but I'm not going to run myself into the ground trying to prove it. And y'all, I think that lesson becomes especially important in midlife. Because at this stage, many of us already know how to push through. We know how to keep going. We know how to function tired. We know how to carry our burdens and still show up. But real wisdom is learning when to pause. And that brings me to the deeper message of today. This isn't just about taking a Sunday off. This is about understanding what rest is actually doing for us. Today's message is this. Rest is not just a spiritual practice. It's a protective one. It protects your peace. It protects your nervous system. It protects your clarity, your joy. And based on what we know more and more about women's health in midlife, it may also play a role in protecting your brain. That got my attention because when people talk about rest, they often frame it like a luxury, something optional, something extra, something you do after everything else is handled. But what if rest belongs in a different category? What if it's maintenance? What if it's stewardship? What if it's wisdom? What if it's part of how you preserve your mind for the future you're praying for? That's the conversation I want to have today. Now, I want to touch on something that deserves more conversation, especially for women in our 50s and 60s and beyond. There's a lot of growing attention around women's brain health in midlife, and for good reason. So many women began noticing changes during this season: brain fog, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, mental fatigue, that frustrating feeling of not being quite as sharp as you used to be. And often those experiences get brushed aside. People say it's just stress, just age, just hormones, just life. But it's real. And I want to say this here because I think it matters. And I'm saying this not only as a woman in midlife, but also as a recreation therapist and a mind-body wellness coach. I have experience behind me, and I know firsthand that rest, joy, movement, and meaningful engagement are not extras. They are part of how we support the mind and body for the long haul. So when I talk about rest, I'm not talking about something cute and trendy. I'm talking about something that matters, because many women, midlife, can feel like the perfect storm. Hormonal shifts, chronic stress, caregiving roles, work pressure, emotional labor, and the wear and tear of years spent putting ourselves last. That matters, because when your system has been under strain for years, you don't just need a vacation. You need practices that restore you from the inside out. You need space to settle your mind. You need things that lower your stress instead of add to it. You need rhythms that remind your brain and body that every moment is not an emergency. And that's why I think this Sunday rest practice is bigger than just taking a break. It's me choosing not to live in constant activation. And honestly, if you've been watching Waves of Change for a little while, this idea may sound familiar, because we've touched on this before, just from a slightly different angle. This connects to that earlier episode where we talked about extending grace. Because what is rest, if not grace in action? That episode, you'll find it here, was about learning to stop being so hard on ourselves, learning to give ourselves compassion in the middle of transition, learning that grace is not weakness. Well, today takes that one step deeper, because grace is not only how you talk to yourself after a hard moment. Grace is also how you structure your life. It's building in room to breathe. Grace is not demanding performance every single day. It's letting rest be a part of the rhythm instead of treating it like a reward for exhaustion. So if that earlier episode was about extending grace emotionally, today is about extending grace practically. And I love that connection, because Waves of Change has never been just about getting somewhere new. It's also about learning how to live differently on the way there. And that leads me to today's spiritual anchor. Exodus chapter 33. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. That verse is so powerful to me. Not I will give you endless hustle. Not I will give you constant activity. Not I will give you a life where you never have to stop. He says, I will give you rest. And that tells me that rest is not outside the will of God. It's not a detour from purpose. It's not weakness. It's not evidence that you don't care enough. It's a gift. And what I love is that this promise is given in the middle of movement. It's given to people who are still on the journey. Y'all, this dog is chewing up on my chair. Hold on. Stella, stop it. Ooh, puppies. They ain't no joke. They like to chew up on everything. Why y'all ain't tell me about that? But she's fun though. So this isn't just a verse for people who've already arrived. It's for those of us who are still building, still hoping, still waiting, still applying, still discerning, still becoming. That means rest is not only for the destination, rest is for the journey too. Now let's go a little deeper with this. One thing I've been reflecting on is how often women in midlife give up on the very things that bring them joy. Y'all realize that? We become so focused on surviving, producing, caregiving, holding things together, that the first things to disappear are the things that make us feel alive. The creative things, the pleasurable things, the reflective things, the playful things, the hobbies, the walks, the music, the journaling, the gardening, the reading for pleasure. Wow. The little rituals that soften us. And yet, those very things may be some of the most protective things we can do. When you engage in something you truly enjoy, your whole system responds. Your breathing slows, your muscles soften. Your stress may begin to come down. Your mind gets a break from the pressure. Your body is no longer living in a constant alarm. That's not trivial. That's restoration. And I think one of the lies we've been sold is that joy has to justify itself. No. Sometimes joy is useful because it heals. Rest is protective. Sometimes rest is productive because it restores. A hobby is holy because it reconnects you to yourself. Another thought that has been sitting with me is this. The things we do consistently in midlife help shape how resilient we are later. I'm not just talking spiritually. I'm talking mentally, emotionally, cognitively. When we stay curious, that matters. When we keep learning, that matters. When we challenge our mind in gentle, healthy, enjoyable ways, that matters. When we create, move, connect, reflect, and engage instead of only grind, that matters. It all adds up. I like to think of it this way. Every life-giving practice is like laying another brick in the foundation of your future self. Every time you read instead of scroll mindlessly, every time you learn something new, every time you take a walk and let your thoughts settle, every time you write, sing, paint, stretch, pray, laugh, or make something with your hands, you're not wasting time. You are investing in wholeness. And that changes the conversation because now rest is no longer just doing nothing. Rest becomes part of how you stay sharp, part of how you stay grounded, part of how you build a life your future self can inhabit with more peace. I think this hits especially hard for women like us because many of us are taught to be useful before we're taught to be well. Useful daughters, useful mothers, useful employees, useful wives, useful leaders, useful friends, useful caretakers. And because of that, anything that doesn't immediately produce something can start to feel suspicious. Does that feel suspicious? A nap feels lazy. A walk feels indulgent. A hobby feels frivolous. A quiet afternoon feels irresponsible. But I want to challenge that. If your whole life has conditioned you to ignore your own depletion, then rest is going to feel uncomfortable at first. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Some of us don't need to learn how to work hard. We already know how to do that. What we need to learn now is how to recover, how to replenish, how to protect our minds and bodies instead of only extracting from them. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's stewardship. And this is where I want to bring the brain piece in a practical way. When your life is dominated by chronic stress, your body pays for it. Your mind pays for it. Your memory pays for it. Your focus pays for it. So when you can create space for activities that calm you, delight you, and engage you in healthy ways, you're doing more than passing time. You're interrupting stress. You're giving your brain another experience besides urgency. You're helping your system shift out of constant pressure. You're creating room for recovery. And that can look different for everybody. For one woman, it might be gardening. For another, it might be painting. For somebody, it might be walking and praying. For you, it might be reading. For her, It might be learning a new language or taking a dance class, knitting, journaling, cooking, or joining a book club. The point is not perfection. The point is engagement. The point is choosing something that brings your mind back to life instead of keeping it trapped in tension all the time. So let's make this practical. If you're in a season like mine, building, pivoting, applying, hoping, carrying, what might brain protective rest actually look like? It could look like 4 kinds of restoration. Let's talk about them. Intellectual restoration. Reading a good book, my favorite. Listening to an audiobook that expands your thinking. Doing puzzles, learning a new skill, taking a class just because it interests you. Not for a credential. I see you. Not for a promotion. I see you too. Not because it's monetizable. Just because your mind deserves nourishment. Creative restoration. Writing, drawing, decorating, crafting, music, photography. Cooking something beautiful, making something with your hands. Creative practices can be deeply healing because they remind you that you're more than a machine for responsibilities. Physical restoration. Walking, stretching, dancing, swimming, gardening, yoga. Not punishment, not pressure, just movement that supports your mind. Social restoration. A good conversation. A book club, a faith group, a class, serving in community, laughing with people who make you feel safe. Because healthy connection can help us feel human again. So when I say rest, I don't only mean sleep. I mean restoration. I mean making room for the kinds of things that helps your mind, your body, your spirit remember what peace feels like. Now let's tell the truth, because I can hear the objections already. I don't have time. I feel guilty. And that right there is the struggle for so many women. We have been trained to believe our time should always be useful to somebody else. And if it's not directly benefiting another person, generating an income, or moving a goal forward, it can feel selfish. But what I'm learning is this: restoration is not selfish, it's strategic. Let me say that again. Restoration is not selfish, it's strategic. When you are depleted, everything gets harder. You're more reactive, you're less clear, you're less patient, you're more emotionally thin, you're more likely to interpret every setback as failure. You're more likely to lose perspective. So taking care of your mind is not some little side hobby for when things calm down. Y'all, it belongs in the plan. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's 15 minutes. Maybe it's 20 minutes after dinner instead of scrolling. Maybe it's a quiet walk on Sundays. Maybe it's pulling out something you used to love and letting yourself be a beginner again. Small acts count. Tiny restoration still restores. That's part of why this Sunday practice matters to me. Sunday is becoming a sacred interruption. A day where I remind myself that I'm more than my applications, more than my productivity, more than my engagement numbers, more than my visible progress. It's a day to return to myself, to return to God, to return to the truth that my life is not a performance. And honestly, I need that, because this season can become so transactional if I let it. Apply, wait, check, post, perform, hope, repeat. And before long, you start living like your worth is attached to your output. That's dangerous. So this Sunday pause is me saying, no, I will pursue the dream. I will honor the commitment. I will stay disciplined, but I will also protect my peace. I think one of the deepest forms of maturity is realizing that just because you could keep going doesn't always mean you should. That's where I am right now. I know how to push through. I know how to function tired. I know how to stay responsible. I know how to carry things well. But this next chapter, I'm building. I don't want to build it from depletion. I don't want to reach for the door of my next season exhausted, brittle, and disconnected from myself. I want to arrive with my peace intact, with my spirit tender, with my mind still curious and able to function, with joy still available to me. And that means I have to practice now what I want to carry later. If I want a more peaceful future, I need peaceful rhythms now. If I want a healthier mind later, I need healthier habits now. If I want a life that feels spacious, I have to stop glorifying constant pressure. That's real. So let me bring it back to the heart of the message. Rest is trust. It's trusting that one paused day will not destroy your progress. It's trusting that what is meant for you doesn't require your self-abandonment. It's trusting that God can still move while you are still. It's trusting that your future self is not so fragile that it can't survive your Sabbath. It's trusting that protecting your mind is part of preparing for your next chapter. And I think for so many of us, that's the deeper work. Not just learning how to do more, but learning how to stop in peace. If you're watching this and you feel guilty whenever you rest, let me lovingly say this. You do not have to earn your humanity. You don't have to collapse before you're allowed to recover. You don't have to prove your worth through constant strain. You don't have to wait until everything is done to begin taking care of your mind. And maybe today's message is your permission slip. Permission to pause, permission to breathe, permission to delight in something simple, permission to pick back up a hobby you abandoned, permission to protect your peace without apology, permission to create a life where your mind gets to rest too. That is not weakness, that's wisdom. Let's come back to today's scripture one more time. Exodus 33:14. My presence will go with you and I will give you rest. I love it because it reminds me that rest is not separate from God's presence. His presence goes with me into uncertainty, into the waiting, into the unanswered applications, into the pivot, into the Sundays that look quiet from the outside. And with His presence comes rest, not panic, not pressure, not endless striving, rest. That means today mattered. Even without an application, even without an engagement hour, today still mattered. Because maybe what was being built today was not a resume line or a metric. Maybe what was built today was resilience, clarity, peace, margin, trust, and a healthier mind for the long road ahead. Special emphasis on long. So day 66 may not look flashy. No applications update, no engagement report, no productivity badge. But it carries something just as important. It carries a reminder that midlife is not only about pushing forward, it's also about protecting what matters while you do, protecting your peace, protecting your mind, protecting your joy, protecting your ability to keep going without losing yourself. And that may be one of the greatest acts of self-leadership in this season. So today I'm honoring rest. I'm honoring rhythm. I'm honoring grace. I'm honoring the truth that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do for your future is not another push. It's a pause. Before you go, I want to ask you this. What is one hobby, practice, or a simple act of joy that helps your mind breathe? Maybe it's reading, maybe it's gardening, perhaps it's music or journaling. Maybe it's doing absolutely nothing for a few minutes without guilt. Put it in the comments. And if there's something you used to do, that you used to love, that you've let fall by the wayside, maybe this week is the week you reclaim it. Go get it. Not because it has to make money. Not because it has to become content. Not because you need to master it. but because your peace matters, your brain matters, and the woman you're becoming deserves care now, not just later. If this episode blessed you, subscribe to Ways of Change, like this video, and share it with another woman who needs permission to rest without guilt. I'll see you tomorrow for day 67. I'm Vanessa, and this is Ways of Change. Until then, remember, you're never too late, and your peace is never too far. Bye now.